So I'm driving around, just not in Detroit. Everyone, I have long had a love-hate relationship, more love than hate, to be honest, with Canada. And being from Detroit, I used to visit Canada all the time as a kid. A million years ago, you could just drive over to Canada. You didn't need to have a passport or a driver's license with a star on it or anything. You could just go over anytime you wanted to. And people would go to Canada, just to do something different. Go to the mall, go eat downtown, whatever. It was a different world. And for me, there was a community outside of Chatham that was popular among African Americans. They bought houses and they could have like their own little community. I'm not sure if it's still there. I keep telling myself I'm going to go back just to see it. But my grandfather had a house there, and we would go there frequently. But another place we used to go to was Toronto, and young James, I just thought that Toronto was the most magical city in the world. I just loved it. And through the years, I kept having connections to Toronto that I took as, reasons for me to come back. So when I'm in the service, I used to travel to Winnipeg, and I met my bestest friend there, and we had been friends for years and years and years. And she ultimately moved to Toronto. And also while I was in when might not serving in the Air Force, I met another young lady, and she was from Toronto. So all these connections to Toronto. So since I've come back to Detroit after my wife departed, um, I've been like, I need to go to Toronto. And then just one time I said I want to go to Toronto, and I've been going like at least once a year or something. And this recent trip, those two young ladies I was talking about, they never met each other. It's been like 30 years. They never met each other. We finally got together. Everybody had a great time. It was fun. So I felt like I needed to, express that. And among that, and every time I come to Canada, in general, Toronto in particular, I notice difference. And the thing about Canada, it is very much a Western nation. It is very much in the similarities to the United States. Has been a part of the British Empire, and their breakaway was quite different than ours and quite later than ours. But we have some of those things in common. The most of Canada is an English speaking nation, but there's also French. I've been to Quebec, but I don't go to there often. And there's a lot of similarities. You can see the influences from the United States, but it's different. And more and more, I've been noticing the difference. I said something like on the way to Toronto, I noticed a lot of windmills. That's not something that's been heavily practiced in the United States. Windmills for turbines and electrical power. There's like miles of them on the way there. They use paper straws. Just there is things that they do the same way as Americans we do, but the way they do it is different. They use their public spaces different. I went to a gas station on the way up there, and they had like a little seating area, and it was just they had like a fake fireplace and these leather seats and a coffee table, so you could just sit down. Absolutely not generating any revenue or anything. It was just a place for people to relax while they're taking a break from driving. And that's just something that we don't do. I mean, there's no reason why we don't do it. It's like, well, how is this making us any money? We're not doing that. Um, they definitely use their public spaces different. But this time I went, and I ultimately went to Toronto, but I started off in Markham, and Markham had a huge Asian American population. I guess it was mostly Chinese. I'm not Asian American, Asian Canadian population. I guess they were Chinese Canadians, and that struck me when I got out the car, and I immediately struck by there was a lot of Asian people there. And it was funny because I was at a Walmart, and I seen Walmarts in the States where it's like the main Texas bathrooms, girls, boys, is in English, and then below it it's in Spanish. Well, here it was in, some, I don't know if it was Mandarin, but some Chinese script. And then now, and when I went to the mall proper, which is also kind of odd because the anchor for this mall was Walmart. And that's usually the sign of a downward trend for Americans. We always have a Macy's or a Sears, and that's another story. And malls are pretty empty. And this mall was just a lot of people there. And I mean, and everybody was shopping. I'm people watching, and I'm seeing that people are carrying bags and but there was also kind of this feel of community. There were a lot of stores, not a lot, but more stores than I expected that were, they had Chinese script and they sold Chinese items. And I'm not saying that they should be expanded to the entire Canadian experience, but I'm just saying that's where it was. And then my experience this time, and things are different. Things are they're downtown. I think the way they lay out their parking is different. They don't. One of the things I've always noticed is that they don't let any space go to waste. One of the places we went to was a bar, and it was downtown, and it wasn't this huge spread out place. It was more like longer, and it went up. And we tend to, and I don't know if this is necessarily an Americanism, but we tend to go out. Bigger is better, and they'll go up, and you'll go up a flight of stairs or something. So I thought about that, and every time I go, I see something like that. Like I mentioned briefly, paper straws. That was a huge deal in the United States. Oh, paper straws. Why make paper? Stupid liberals. Why they want to make paper straws? And it's like it's a straw, and if it's recyclable or takes up less of a footprint, why not? It's not necessary. Everything's not a statement. It's just, this is better. And, you put the straw in your mouth and it feels different on your lips than a paper straw, but it functions. And every place has a recycling bin, and it's broken down by, landfill, recyclable, different things. It's every place. Downtown has it. And, this is not me making a political statement. It's just me noticing a difference. And, I remember as a kid going to Canada often, and people around me not going, and it's, different reasons, social, economic, different reasons why people didn't go to Canada, but we did. I remember going with two friends who lived across the street from me, and we went to Canada because my father had a house in this place I was mentioning earlier. And as we were going there, they literally had their noses pressed to the window. It was like, what's wrong with you guys? And it was like, they never seen corn before. I mean, like corn growing. And they didn't even face it. Well, I say that to fast forward, to today, where it's this thing of, it's good to go different places. It's good to get out of the United States. It's good to get out your comfort zone, just so you can see how other people do things. Now, you go to other countries. I've been to Europe. I've been to Greenland. I've been to, the Caribbean. And sometimes the difference is quite stark. I've never been to the mainland of Europe, but I went to England, and there's like a lot of differences. Like we were driving, I think we were going to York, and there was rubble on the side of the road, and they had these relations on it, where it's like, this is 200 years old. This is 500 years old. This is 1,000 years old. How long is like? It was like a wall of a castle or something in front. And it's like, here is this the top level of the thing is 200 years old, and that's like the entire age of the United States. And then they just keep going and going. So it's nice to see things that are stark different. But for me, it's the little differences between the United States and Canada that really stick out to me. And I appreciate that it's not just the 51st state. They're doing their own thing. Now, they're still Canadians, and I got to give them a hard time because, that's the law. But, I appreciate the difference, and I had a great time coming. I saw my friends I hadn't seen for a while, and another one I hadn't seen for a few years. So it was good to get back together again. And they, like I said, they had never met each other, and of course, being two women, they ganged up on me. But that's cool. That's all right. I had a great time. It was fun. And have you ever been to Canada or any other foreign country where it was the little things that differently? Maybe the way they prepare their meals, not so much prepare their meals, but how they present it. The traffic lights, the traffic signals. Comment below.